Pittsburgh Steelers have signed a player in free agency that might be their starting slot cornerback in 2024. Captain Cam Heyward comes back to OTAs today. And then also, Andrew Filliponi throws out there an idea that would land CeeDee Lamb, superstar wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, to the Steel City. We'll break that down at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into today's loaded edition of Steelers news and rumors coverage, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already and join the over 53,000 people already subscribed to Steelers Talk. Right now, we're trying to move up the power rankings here at Chat Sports. Our next target, the Chiefs Report, currently getting close to 55,000 subscribers, but we've been gaining ground on them steadily and surely. We're trying to pass them before the start of the 2024 season. Help us do that right now by clicking that subscribe button. And guys, new viewers that are watching our videos for the first time or the first couple of times, we are counting on you to bring us home here and move us up the ranks in the Chat Sports Power Rankings. So we really do appreciate all of your support. And if you're interested in free premium Steelers content here on YouTube every single day, this is going to be the place for you. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now. So let's start with the big news of the day here, starting with the player the Steelers brought in NFL free agency. Defensive back Grayland Arnold played a little bit for the Houston Texans last year. He's formerly with the Philadelphia Eagles as well. He's 26 years old, a little bit undersized, but it's okay because he's a safety, free safety type / slot cornerback. He played 113 snaps at slot corner for the Texans last year, played pretty darn well. We'll go over his numbers here in just a second. And it's just another potential starting slot cornerback option added to the Steelers roster here. Now, we'll go into the depth chart here in a little bit in terms of what they have right now, but it's no secret that the Steelers are pretty weak and pretty light on true slot cornerback talent on this roster. Arnold will have an opportunity to prove himself here during the rest of OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and of course training camp. You look at his grades here from Pro Football Focus last year in 113 snaps from the slot for the Texans. Pretty good overall grade there at 71.4. That is an above average grade. The tackling, 60.1, so he's not the best tackler in the world, but not necessarily a liability either. Then you got the pass rush, 73.8, so we know that Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin love to use Grayland Arnold, or use their slot corner, I should say, as a seems like somebody that could do that as well. And then coverage grade there, 77.0. That's a pretty darn good coverage grade. Over the last several seasons, Arthur Marlette, Chandon Sullivan, not the best guys in coverage from the slot. Perhaps Arnold can switch that up for the Steelers here in 2024. And listen, guys, I do think Arnold is the likely favorite to win the starting slot cornerback job right now if the Steelers don't make another move at this position. I'm not a big fan of Josiah Scott, who's been getting first-team reps. I think that he hasn't really been all that impressive at OTAs to this point. Beanie Bishop Jr. is an undrafted free agent, completely unproven. So this might be a move here where Grayland Arnold is somebody that they trust to start out the season as the starting slot corner, and then perhaps Beanie Bishop Jr. Can come up as an up-and-coming rookie type prospect and take that job by season's end. But I like Arnold. I think he's a decent player. And also, you have to keep in mind, guys, the Steelers play with 2 corners on the field instead of 3 in their base formations more than anybody else in football. So the slot cornerback position is less important for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense than it is on other schemes. Now listen, guys, I still wouldn't be shocked if the Pittsburgh Steelers went out and got Cam Sutton, especially in like June or July here, when the NFL comes down on a potential punishment for Cam Sutton and some of his legal issues, running from police for 3 weeks, a domestic incident that was eventually dropped in Florida. We don't know what the NFL is going to do with Cam Sutton, but I have said that I think that the Steelers would absolutely bring him back if it's a short or no suspension or just a fine. And I still think if the NFL doesn't give a really long suspension or anything like that, Cam Sutton could still come back on a cheap contract for the Steelers. Now let me know down there in the comment section, how do you feel about the signing of Grayland Arnold here for the Pittsburgh Steelers? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know how you feel about this newest Steelers signing. Then we move to Cam Heyward here, where he's been absent from voluntary workouts, OTAs to this point. Today, he reported for duty. It's still voluntary OTAs at this point. Mandatory minicamp starts, I believe, June 11th here next week. So Cam is definitely somebody that you want in your building. He is the team captain. He is the lifeblood and the soul of that locker room. So it's great to see him in the facility today. He did tell reporters that, he's still looking for a new contract. None of that situation is being changed by his presence in the Steelers facility, but he felt like his presence was warranted at OTAs, and that his presence as team captain was certainly something that he wanted to provide this team as we look forward to a very pivotal 2024 campaign. And listen, guys, I do think that, both sides are negotiating in good faith here. I think Cam wants to stay in Pittsburgh for the rest of his career. He wants to give the team kind of some cap flexibility while still getting paid his fair share. And I think the Steelers feel like, yeah, we want Cam Heyward in our locker room for the next 3 years to try to help us win a couple of Super Bowls, hopefully, before he hangs up the cleats for good. And I do think eventually a deal is going to get done, and I'm very excited to see what that framework looks like and what flexibility it gives the Steelers in years to come, because I know Cam wants to finish his career with a ring on his finger. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, could the Steelers trade for CeeDee Lamb? He did not show up for mandatory minicamp there in Dallas today, so we'll talk about the possibility of that here in just a second. But before we get into that, if you're a believer in Russell Wilson like I am, and you want to help support the channel but also get a Russell Wilson jersey, this is your opportunity to do so today. Go to chatsports.com/Russ. I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's show. And when you use that link and you make a purchase for a Russell Wilson officially licensed Steelers jersey, our friends at Fanatics are going to give us a part of the proceeds, so we really do appreciate all of your guys' support. So if you were planning on getting a Russell Wilson jersey anyway for the 2024 season, you can help out the channel as well by getting your jersey from Fanatics when you use our link, chatsports.com/Russ. So let's talk CeeDee Lamb here, because this is a fun one. We've been talking about a bunch of different wide receiver trade targets over the last several days and weeks as the Steelers continue to search for the wide receiver they're going to put opposite of George Pickens here in 2024. And Andrew Filliponi, Steelers radio host, kind of floated the idea of trading for CeeDee Lamb. This is what he had to say. Hypothetically speaking, would you trade the Steelers' 2025 first-round pick and a 2026 third-round pick for CeeDee Lamb? So the reason I think Filliponi used this framework of a trade is because this is essentially the A.J. Brown deal that the Titans and the Eagles did during the 2022 NFL Draft. Of course, the Titans replaced A.J. Brown with Treylon Burks, and that has not worked out well for them. But this is definitely the framework that Filliponi is working with here, because this is pretty much exactly what it was. Now, listen, guys, the reason why Pony is bringing this up is because CeeDee Lamb, who just had a fantastic season last year. He was my pick for Offensive Player of the Year over Christian McCaffrey. I think he had that good of a season. He was not at Cowboys mandatory minicamp to start today, and the reason for that is he's seeking a new contract along the lines of what Justin Jefferson just got, which is $35 million per season. That's what he's looking for, and Dallas, I don't think, is wanting to give him exactly that figure. So it's going to be interesting to see how that situation plays out. But I will say, I think it's highly unlikely that the Pittsburgh Steelers make a deal for Lamb with the Cowboys at this point in time. Because listen, man, the Cowboys would be fools to want to let him go. He is awesome. You look at that season from last year, over 1,700 yards receiving, 13 yards per reception, 12 touchdowns. He was my pick for Offensive Player of the Year, and he's only gotten better every single season he's been in the National Football League. So he's a young superstar wide receiver. I do think that Dallas is going to eventually pony up the dough, and his lack of presence at a mandatory minicamp here, which does subject him to fines, by the way, is going to, I think, kind of up the ante, and I do think Dallas and CD will get a deal done eventually this offseason. And don't forget, guys, if the Steelers trade for CD, they have to give him that $35+ million contract. And listen, I think that CeeDee's worth that kind of money. I really do. Guys like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, they're young superstars. They should make top of market money. But I know that there's a lot of Steelers fans that feel like $30 million for Brandon Ayuk is way too much. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, are you willing to pay somebody $35 million per season after this year if you end up trading him? I think there's a lot of Steelers fans that probably wouldn't want to pay that much for a guy like CeeDee Lamb. But let me know down there in the comments section, what do you think of Andrew Filliponi's trade idea for CeeDee Lamb? Would you accept this trade if the Cowboys would accept it? Type A if you'd accept this trade and bring CeeDee to the Steel City, or type D if you would decline it. For me personally, guys, I would probably decline this trade offer. And I know what you're probably saying. Jack, CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in the game today. Why would you be saying no to him? Well, the reason why, guys, and it's kind of twofold. Number one, I want to give that big wide receiver contract to George Pickens. All right, the Steelers drafted him. He's an all-world type talent. I think this year he's going to break out and become a true top 5 wide receiver in the game. And if you're only going to give one massive contract to a wide receiver, I want you to save that money for George Pickens in the future, okay? Then number two, you have to give up a first-round draft pick in this potential trade package for CeeDee Lamb. And that's not something I want to do because the Steelers' quarterback situation in 2025 is not yet set in stone. Now, I think Russell Wilson's going to have a good season. I think the Steelers are going to get an extension done with Russ, and I think Russ will be here for at least the next few years or so. And if Russ doesn't work out, I'm hopeful Justin Fields can, establish himself at the end of the season. But listen, there is a world out there where Russell Wilson does not pan out for the Steelers, and neither does Justin Fields, and the Steelers are looking for a brand new quarterback next year. In that scenario, I want my first-round pick at my disposal there to keep my options as open as possible. And if you trade for CeeDee Lamb, that possibility goes out the window, and that's not something I'm willing to do. Thank you for making it to the end of today's edition of Steelers Talk. If you want more content from me, again, Steelers OTA clips going to be going up on my Twitter all throughout the day and all throughout the week here and all throughout next week during mandatory minicamp. So if you want those extra minicamp and OTA clips and news and rumors and all these great stuff on X, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. And if you want more general NFL news from me on IG, I'm at SpareDog.football. Really do appreciate your support, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because if you made it to the end of today's video and you enjoyed yourself, we're going to have another video coming out later in the week for sure. We're going to be having videos every single day. Really do appreciate your guys' support. And until next time, here we go, Steelers.